Hello everyone, welcome back to my book show. George M. James, books like Naval. And inside the books, of course, you will find a lot of things which is fascinating military history, which a lot of people don't know. And I like bringing this out in the books because I think that certain people should be honored, even if they are really forgotten by most. And that's sad to me because we should remember people. We should also remember, the heroic deeds of those who were before us. No, codename Oath 19 as such has nothing to do with the events which I'm going to explain to you. It just came out in the book. The book itself is about deep diving, and with deep diving I mean 300 feet under the water, which is deep. It's really deep. It's specialist diving. It's not your normal scuba diving, and it's definitely not attack diving, which is very shallow. Attack diving is 20 feet at the most, 24 feet. Some people say 18 feet. It depends on your equipment because your rebreathers can't really go deeper than that. You will die if you're deeper than that. So there's a difference between attack diving and Navy diving. Not the same thing, and I'm glad to tell you there's going to be an episode on that as well, where we speak with a South African Navy diver. And we're also going to touch on this attack on Nord Stream. We're going to see technically how that could have been done because you really need people who knew what they were doing. Because that pipeline is very deep where they attacked it. It's not in scuba diving range, unless you're really, really good and you really know how to decompress and so forth. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that episode as well. It's going to come in the future, or perhaps by the time you look, it's already out. But let us talk about Sue Labuschagne. Now, Sue Labuschagne, I'm sure the word of that means nothing to most of you. It's just the name of a woman. Very common name in South Africa. Labuschagne, of course, is from the French Huguenots, and Sue is English, so I don't know what the background was. But she's a fascinating woman, and I would really like to bring honor to the Tannie. Tannie is Afrikaans word for older woman. It's respectfully meant, like auntie. You might say it like that. And apparently, she sank a U-boat in Saldanha Bay, uh, during the Second World War. Now, let me say to you up front that the Navy does not agree that she actually sank with the U-boat. But it's such a good story that I put it into this book codename Oath 19, where it is explained. Now, Sue Labuschagne was part of the SWANS. Now, the SWANS stands for South African Women's Auxiliary Naval Service. I hope I say that word correctly. Auxiliary Naval Service, which is basically females which could enter voluntarily into the Navy, and by doing that, of course, they released men on active duty so they could go and fight, while the women could do the shore-bound work, which makes sense. I mean, that happens in every war, and it should happen in every war. And obviously, they were very keen. They were very patriotic. You've seen that right through the war. Wherever you see the females actually volunteering, like in the Soviet Union, they were from fighter pilots to snipers to whatever, and of course spies. They were very, very good. Then more in the Allied side, the Western side, you saw them as Rens. Same thing, as well as drivers, and these drivers had a lot of sexual relationships with the generals. There's no doubt about it. Eisenhower, yeah, he couldn't keep his little thing inside his belt, inside his pants. Summersby, Kay Summersby, yeah, mention that word in front of the Eisenhower crowd. They get very angry, they get very, 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 very defensive because he wrote a book after the war to say, yes, we were indeed lovers. And so, to be honest, most of the senior officers had a lover on the side. Of course, all of them married men. And I suppose that during wartime, babies do grow up. There's no doubt that the men they don't want to die a virgin, and if they go off to war, I suppose it's a patriotic duty of a female to make sure he goes a happy man. Well, be that so or not, I can also tell you the divorce rate after a war goes up dramatically because first place is wartime marriages seldom last. Secondly, you know, the guy comes back and he's a changed man. And thirdly, it's too quick, too short, and you know, they get married a week later, the guy deploys. You know what the problem is? There's a lot of sad things here. Anyway, the Sue Labuschagne, she joined the SWANS, and then she got deployed to Saldanha Bay. It was known as Northport during the Second World War. Some people even called it the North Pole. And it was very important. Saldanha Bay was very important for the war effort because it acted as a convoy staging point. They say it had to be, of course, protected, and there were heavy naval guns and minefields. Minefields is important, especially between Wicky's Point and Marcus Island, as well as the area between Marcus Island and Eland's Point. Okay, guys, I haven't been there physically, so I don't really know these names, but that should mean something to somebody. But I do know the area around Saldanha Bay, what it looks like there. And so it wasn't protected by the army, strangely enough. It was by naval forces, and this included Sir Labuscagne's platoon. And they arrived there around about April 1944. Now, it must have been quite strange to them because Saldanha wasn't the greatest tourist place then. Might be today, I don't know. But they settled in quite well and they got trained, the SWANS, and they did very well because they were very keen. But technically speaking, and this is important, they used a defensive mining system which was reading the electromagnetic field that is surrounding these mines. So it was an underwater minefield. And so the idea would be is if everything heavy comes over it or through it, it would disturb the magnetic field, and then a signal will go off, an alarm will go off. So in other words, against a submarine, it would be quite deadly. And then the idea is you then blow the mines because nothing should be there anyway. And as far as now, only metal could cause this effect. So it is a primitive form which I had of what's called today MAD, which is a magnetic anomaly detector, which is used today, in, well, I suppose since the 1950s, to hunt submarines. Well, actually, it was used in the Second World War already, as I found out later. So it will detect it, but will it detect a submarine only if it's close to the surface, they tell me. But we are going to speak to submarine commanders also at Legacy. We will find out a lot more. But what you see on this, or the naval aircraft patrolling of the Air Force looking for submarines is like the tail boom sticking out. It's long. That is normally how we detect it from MAD. So I see here in the book, I actually said it was already done in the 1950s. So it's not even the Second World War, 1950s. It's even before that. But of course, it's been refined all the time. Now, interesting, this MAD was also used in Vietnam, by the way, but I will get to that when I'm finished with this episode. I'll make an episode on that specifically because I think let's concentrate on Sue Labuscagne's story. But be it known that in this book, codename of 19, we do discuss the Vietnam angle of MAD as well. So that was the landmine field, and these undermine landmines, underwater landmines, 16 tons of them, so it's really considerable. Then they were defending this area against submarine attack because they were, of course, U-boat groups, wolfpacks around the South African coast, which you can also read about in great detail about them. We discuss them for an entire chapter about U-boats around the South African coast in codename Oak 19. I'll make a separate video on that because it's a discussion on its own. There's a lot of bullshit out of there, which goes back to a fifth column story, which I made a video about also. You know, they said now there were signs on the coast, and at one stage submarine engine broke, and they brought it to a sympathetic farmer, and he took it in and into workshops, and it was fixed, and then they put it back on the submarine. It's just bullshit. But it's such good stories, you know, it's such good stories. But anyway, to make a long story short, the June of 1st, 1944, there was a dance, and this leading seaman, they will call a sea woman, I'm sure, or sea it. You know, this wokeism is just crap. Anyway, leading seaman Sue Labuschagne was on duty. She volunteered so that others could attend this dance. And then she detected at about 22 hours 50 at night, 10 to 11 at night, she detected an anomaly, something happening there in the minefields. The detectors were saying something is moving there. And so she informed the officer of the day, it was a Lieutenant De Beer. He checked on what's going on, and he concluded that there's something happening there in the minefield. And so they called the defense expert, harbor defense expert, Lieutenant Commander Holmes, like Sherlock Holmes. Sure, you had the bottle many jokes about that. So he arrived as well, and so the three of them is now here, and they could see that there's something moving through their minefield. And of course, this is now this is crunch time, because if it can get through that minefield, it's going to get a convoy lying there waiting to be escorted. So what do you do? Yeah, it's crunch time, guys. It's crunch time, because you have to make decisions here, and the decisions is going to be severe. At 23 hours 19, that is about almost 20 past 11, half an hour later, this Commander Holmes told Sue to detonate, to set off the mines. And so she did. She pulled the lever, and 16 tons of explosives, TNT, went up. And it must have been quite impressive if you think about it, 16 tons of explosives going off in a relatively shallow water. So they just, yeah, man, it would have been impressive. And at the same time, of course, they switched their searchlights on, and the siren started going off. And I suppose they also reported it to headquarters, and the dancers, well, they stopped dancing immediately. They came back to active duty. But now they start searching for the U-boat wreckage. As soon as the sun came up, they started searching for it. And that's where the problem comes, because they never found any. They never found any. Now, there's two theories about it. The first theory is that, you know, the U-boat was blown to smithereens, and therefore, and with the equipment they had those days, there just was nothing left. So that's the one theory, and therefore, if that is true, then Labuschagne did sink a submarine. Only female we know about who ever did it. The other theory is also, and this is more than a theory, and this is what the Navy actually believes to this very day, is to say that they did not sink a submarine. Ever since they couldn't find the submarine wreckage, which is highly unlikely, but you can blow a submarine up so much that there's no wreckage anywhere. And of course, the logs and the books which were recovered afterwards from the German Navy showed that no submarine was lost in that area that day, in that time. So, well, might it have been a Japanese submarine? Well, apparently also they don't indicate that they lost anything there during that day. So probably not. But that is the story of Sue Labuschagne. It's a damn good story. I have lots of sympathy with her, you know, pulling that lever. It is actually, you know, not something you would do as a joke. I mean, and she pulled it, followed the command and pulled the lever. So anyway, after the war, on Riebeek Day, I believe, on the 6th of April of 1945, they decided that the war is over. And so what they did is they blew all the remaining minefields, because there's no way in the world you could recover it, and nobody had the desire to do it anyway. And so So we blew a minefield, everybody was there, speeches were made. Must have been a very impressive sight as well. I'm sure if that happened today, there would have been quite a few very, very angry greenies, protesting there in the streets and trying to go with their boats so that it doesn't explode and things like that. Yeah, of course, you know what, I do care about fish and I do care about nature, that's true. But I care about human life even more. So for me, that also is the right decision. There's no way in the world you could keep a minefield there. The war is virtually over by that time. There's no way you're going to recover it without risking lives. So just blow it and get up. By the way, we did find, by way of Aztec or sonar, we did find something which looked like it could have been part of a U-boat. But later, when they dived down to it, they saw it's just a rock sticking out. But that caused quite a bit of excitement as well. So, right, that's the story of Sue Labuschagne in codename Oak 19. If I haven't said it, all the books are available in Kindle audio, hardcover, softcover. I even have a copy of it here behind me. And that's it. That's the story. Want to read the book? Very, very fascinating book about deep diving and submarines and things like that. Then please do so. God bless.